All right, hello OAS family. It is time for another book review, and today we are going to be reviewing a book by Johnson Su-sing Chow. This book is one of a four-book series, and the series is called Vegetables, Fruits, Insects, and Aquatic Life Paintings, and this is the volume that is on fruits. So before we get into the details of the book, we're going to discuss some general statistics. The book is 11 and 3/4 inches tall by 8 1/4 inches wide, and it is has approximately 111 pages, and it has text in both Chinese and English. So if you don't know Johnson Chow was a very well-known artist, Chinese artist, and did a lot of work promoting the appreciation of Chinese art and culture, specifically to the West, encouraging cultural exchange between the East and the West. He was one of the early inspirers for my father, who saw the work that he was doing in the books that he was publishing, and combines a very masterful artistic ability with a real passion for sharing and good communication and really the heart of a storyteller. So we have this foreword here that talks about a little bit about the series, his first series, and then this, which is kind of sort of a follow-up series. Also, Johnson Chow recently passed away, and he lived close to 100 years, and was residing in Canada for the later part of his life. So here's a brief introduction about the book itself, and we are going to get right into it. Here's a table of contents, so you can see all the fruits that are covered here, and talking a little bit of an overview about the significance of the painting of fruits in Chinese history and culture in general. So that is a nice little lengthy, meaty overview. Talks about the different dynasties and the different approaches to this group of subjects in like the Tang Dynasty and the Ming Dynasty and the Song Dynasty and the Qing Dynasty. So a lot of historical context here. So we get to our first fruit that he's going to shine a highlight on, and this is grape. So we have a description here on the left-hand side of about the history of sort of grapes in Chinese culture, and how it started as early as the Han Dynasty, which is like 2,000 years ago. And there was an ambassador to the West that brought back grape seeds and cultivated them and made them into wine. So we have this painting here of like a grapes in a basket on the right-hand side. And then here's like an element breakdown of the different elements in the painting, so you can see the elements done separately here. So you can see a little bit clearer how the pieces are done. And then here is another example of like a finished painting that is grapes on a vine, and then another elements breakdown of the different pieces of that composition. So you can see here the different strokes that are used to make this composed composition. We get into the next fruit, which is pomegranate. Again, a nice description here about pomegranate. Mentions that the province of Anhui is famous for its pomegranates, and that's actually the province that my mother was born in. So we can see here a finished painting of pomegranates on the branch here. And then this very signature, you get this idea a lot when the pomegranates get super ripe and then they start to burst open, or you get birds pecking at them and they make a crack in it and expose some of the seeds. it's actually part of the nature of the fruit, you know, actually the nature of all fruits, that it encourages birds or animals to eat the fruit so that they can spread their seeds. So here is like elements breakdown of the different pieces to do the pomegranate composition. So you can see here the outline pieces and the way that he fills it in, and the leaves and the branches. And then here's a different composition here, oriented a little bit differently. And then we have an elements piece here for that kind of composition. Now we get into loquats. This is a lesser known fruit, I think, here in the United States. This is not one that you see commonly sold in stores, but we have lots of loquat trees in the home I grew up in. I actually planted neighborhood friend of mine. They grew really great loquat trees, and then they were so prolific that they gave me one, and I planted it in the corner of our backyard, and it grew into this really massive tree, and it fruits every year. And fruits are good. They're sweet. They have a soft. They have large seeds in the middle, and you know, it's a nice kind of I don't know, a little bit peachy in the flesh consistency. Interesting fruit. And so it talks a little bit about the significance of loquat, and how that it was a subject of some famous poems, and mentions that the loquat is belonging to the rose family, and it's indigenous to China. The fact that the word for loquat actually means red tangerine. So that is an interesting thing. So here we have paintings of a loquat on a branch. It's very familiar to me, seeing them, very good representation, seeing them this way growing in our backyard. So here is the elements piece for the loquats. And then another simplified, almost like somebody took off a branch, you know, like how you would see it if it were like picked. And then elements piece for that painting. You can see these compositions are very accessible, very simple, easy to do, really great book, because I think the compositions are simple enough that anybody could try. So lychee, very famous Asian fruit here. Now that a lot of it's very popular nowadays for Asian foods to become, you know, more mainstream here in the United States. So you're seeing lychee flavor and lychee fruit invading a lot of you know, Western dishes, and also just like you know, they have milk tea shops and things like that. These were food trends that were started in Taiwan and came over here to the United States, and lychee is very, very popular. So we have a good description about the history and cultural significance of lychee here, and then this painting of lychee on a branch. And lychee have this like peel that's very kind of scaly, and you peel it off, and the fruit is actually translucent. It's like this translucent white color, and it's very delicious and very texturally unique. All right, so there are, here is a breakdown of the elements of the lychee in the tree. Then we have another lychee composition. This one has a bit more dynamic leaves. We can see here elements where the leaves are covering the fruits and weaving in and out, which is interesting compositional variance. And then we have the elements here. Nice to see a stroke like this sort of separated, you know, this very spontaneous leaf stroke with the textures, so you can kind of see them apart from the composition, and you can get an idea a little bit about how the strokes were used to create the painting. So bergamot here. This is a citrus fruit. Again, it originates in Asia. It's planted in various parts of southern China. It has like these, it's like fingers, and has a very pleasant scent. And so another name for the Chinese name for this fruit can literally be translated into Buddha's hand. So yeah, lovely piece here on the bergamot, and then we can see here this painting of the bergamot on the branch facing upward, so you can see that hand quality. Here's a breakdown of the strokes used to make that painting. So you can see here the outline work, and then the dots, and then how they fill it in, and then the leaf strokes. And then here's another composition done with more of an ink quality, where you can see the leaves done in ink. And then here's a breakdown of that composition here. Persimmon, getting into persimmon season now in the autumn. Weather starts getting a little colder, and definitely it is time for persimmons. So, and it's also mentioned here that it's considered to be the fruit of good omens. So you can see here the painting of the persimmons on the branch with these big dark leaves. And then the little elements break down here where you can see the crown of the persimmon. That's a very distinctive element of the persimmon. See if I can get this bug out of our picture here. Okay, so then we see another persimmon composition here, and then again a breakdown of the elements in that composition. So we move on to cherry. And again, we have on the left-hand side, we have a breakdown of the history and the cultural significance of the cherry. And, you know, they have cherries referenced in manuscripts back sort of 2,000 years ago in the records of the Western Han Dynasty. And so they have a very long cultivation tradition in China. Then here's a picture of cherries on a tree. Then a breakdown of the elements of that painting. And then here another composition that features more of like a harvesting kind of look, where we have a branch away from the tree, and then we have some fruit that's making its way onto a plate. Wonderfully simple compositions here. Really, anybody can try it. That's, I think, what I really have loved about Johnson's book is he focuses on compositions that are skillfully done, but simple enough that they seem accessible to most people. So here's an elements breakdown here on the right. Then we get into peach, which is a very significant fruit in Asian culture. So there's manuscripts referencing peach back 3,000 years, so earlier than any other countries in the world, and you'll see a lot of peaches as symbols of longevity in, you know, Chinese cultural pieces, and in paintings you see them appear a lot too. So here's a painting of peaches on a tree, and then elements break down here of that painting. And then here's a different one, again featuring more ink work, which really provides a nice contrast to the fruit and the leaves. And then we see an elements breakdown here. So we're moving into chestnut. So this is, if any of you have sort of gone to China or Asia, Taiwan before, the smell of chestnuts in the street markets is a very familiar smell. And you know, there are street vendors there that are literally roasting them in carts, and they're very fragrant and you know, very symbolic of the colder months. You start to see them appearing. So here's very unique sort of nut that appears on the tree here with this casing that has these hairs around it. And then here's the elements breakdown of that painting. And then here we have, again, more of a sort of harvesting shot where you can see the shelled chestnuts along with a branch that has the chestnuts intact. And here we have an elements detail here of things used in that painting. So bottle gourd. So this is one of the only gourds that can be used as food, and at the same time it can also be made into a utensil. Sometimes it's called calabash. So there's a section here that describes the place that it has in Chinese history and culture, and then we have a painting here, the bottle gourd. And then the elements breakdown of that painting. Then we have another one that's a little bit simpler. And then the elements breakdown here. So lentil. Moving on, we mentions that there's a Ming poet named Lychee who wrote a poem on an early autumn. And the lines are, summer is gone and coolness seeps in from the window gauze. I hear the sound of clubs beating against the laundry, but cannot tell from whence it comes. Waking from a drunken sleep, I stand for a little while in the dying sun, leisurely counting the purple bean flowers growing beside the fence. So these purple bean flowers that he's referencing are the flowers of the lentil. So we have this wonderful, delightful painting here of, you can see these seed pods and the flowers, and then the wonderful ink work of the leaves. This is a really lovely composition because there's such great contrast between these bold ink strokes and then the softer seed pods, and even the branch work has like a very lovely soft quality to it. So here's the elements breakdown of that painting. And then we just have a painting of the harvested lentil pods here. So once you learn this, it can be used for other beans as well. You know, if you want to paint snap peas or snow peas, they're just subtly different. So this is a good thing to practice. And I love these little dots that he uses to accentuate the seam of the seed pod. We get into watermelon here. So, you know, watermelon universally is associated with summer. Has a large water content. It's very cooling when you eat it. And so it was first introduced to China during the 5 Dynasty period. It's like the 10th century AD. And it spread, and around the 12th century AD, it was sort of more commonly known. And then we have this painting here of a watermelon on the vine. And then another painting of this sort of half open watermelon, so you can see the inside. It's a really interesting way that he's chosen to render the sort of flesh of the watermelon, this sort of half open watermelon here. And then we have this pieces composition where we have these two colors. The first time I ever saw a yellow watermelon was in Taiwan. So I didn't, you know, as a kid, I didn't even know that the watermelon came in that color until I went to Taiwan and saw it and had some. It was delicious. I remember how it tasted. So we have a kind of an elements breakdown because there's some grapes in this shot too. So, and then pumpkin. It is autumn, so it is pumpkin season around here. So pumpkin is not something that is native to China. It was transplanted there fairly recently. And it has like mentioned by people like in Ming Dynasty records, and that it came from southern barbaric states and has since been planted in the provinces of Fujian and Zhejiang. So pumpkin was transplanted to China from from other countries in southern Asia. So prior to this, there was no mention of pumpkin in manuscripts. So, but it's such a significant fruit here for us in the United States. It's good that it's represented here because it's nice to have the language of being able to paint it because it's such a significant part of the holidays here. So we have this pumpkin here with its leaves and little elements breakdown, so you can see how they render the stem and then how they build out the shape of the pumpkin from the stem. And then we have this pillow-shaped pumpkin. I've actually never seen one of these before, so interesting. Has this different shape, and then we have a finished painting here and an elements breakdown here. So we're getting into angled Luffa. Okay, so it was said that this was originated in India, and it was like in the northern Song dynasty that the plant was first found in China. So we have more on this side on the history of this fruit. And then we have a finished painting here of the fruit on the branch. Elements breakdown here with some instructions on the left-hand side. Good to note that along with these elements breakdown, there's also instructions about how to paint the strokes that accompany them. So here's a different composition here, along with an elements breakdown and some bullet point instructions. Bitter gourd. So this fruit has like a very bitter taste, a green rind, and vermilion red pulp. Shi Tao, who's one of 4 famous monk artists, he called himself the bitter gourd monk, and he used the characteristics to symbolize his love and loyalty towards the country and the last ruling family of the period. So we have a section here that talks about the history of it, and here's a wonderful painting. We have these depiction of these background leaves, these sort of faded leaves to suggest that they're in the background, and then these bolder leaves that are clearly in the foreground along with the fruit here. Here's an elements breakdown of that painting with some instruction here on the left-hand side. Right, another composition here with an elements breakdown and some instruction. And then finally, we're getting to Pear, getting towards the end of the book here. So a section here that talks about the significance of pear in the history and the culture. And then here's a full composition here of pears on the tree. And then elements breakdown with some instruction. And then another composition here, again, more of a harvest composition where you can see these 4 detached pears and then one that's still on the branch, but the branch does seem detached. And then we have a elements breakdown of that painting and then some instruction here. So that will basically close out the book for us. So once again, this is Fruits in the 4-book series, Vegetable, Fruits, Insects, and Aquatic Life Paintings by Johnson Su-sing Chow. If you need more information or would like to purchase this book, you can visit our website at orientalartsupply.com. There's more in the description on that. If you liked this video and would like to see more content from us, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you'll know as soon as we release more videos. We're in a rhythm of about publishing 1 to 2 videos a week, so we thank you for all your support, and as always, we wish you happy painting.